Hello everyone, welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thank you so much for coming to my channel. We're starting the video off with a wide view into my fish room here in Chicago. You can see all the fun decoration and some of the tanks, all kinds of good stuff. The chair where I spend much of my waking life and a little bit of my non-waking life. You see my laptop there where I will be processing this video. But I'm not going to stay in a fish room tour mode. I had a pretty cool idea. It's exactly the opposite of what I have been filming the last few times around. Instead of focusing on one of my bigger splendiferous aquariums, and I'm teasing you with a look at a bunch of them there, don't worry, a full fish room tour is in the works. I like to do one about every 4 months or so. But today, instead of going big, I want to go super small and talk to you about all kinds of fun, cool things you can do. At least they're fun and cool for me, that don't involve space, right? And ergo, don't involve much money. They do require effort, but it's a labor of love. And, compared to a lot of the things we do, like to maintain an aquarium like this, oh my God, doing something like this, which I'm going to talk about, is super easy and manageable. It marries the horticultural bug that I know is in me, as well as the aquarium bug and everything in between, right? All that can happen in what is, I think, less than a half-gallon jar, what we're looking at here. Let me move the spritzer out of the way. We'll get back to him in a second. So this, as I said, is a simple vase from the Container Store. I bet you if you go in your garage or your pantry, you or your spouse will have stacked a whole bunch, different sizes and shapes, and they could be smaller than this, bigger than this, like that jumbo there that's holding a bucket of matrix. I'm going to use that one of these days. That's just a big old cookie jar. And this, by the way, is the door to my storage space in the fish room where I keep all the stuff that helps me run this place. But back to the vase. So a simple $10 vase, right? I like to use glass. I think it's, just a little bit more classy, but I've done this with acrylic. Obviously, I think you would want it to be see-through so you can get the benefit of looking at every layer of your creation. And so what I have here, what I've done, and I've used this vase for 2 or 3 other, let's call them installations. But in this particular case, I was at a swap, and occasionally there you'll find plant people that focus more on plants than fish, and some of them even have a subset which is like house plants, things of that nature. And lurking somewhere in that nomenclature is the umbrella palm. This lovely little, it looks like, miniature palm trees, ergo the name. I think they inhabit in the wild all over sort of marshy, subtropical territories, of which there are plenty, and I believe that they're very tolerant of different conditions within that environment, and so creating an ecosystem for them is super easy. Now, a lot of people use the umbrella palm in terrariums, or they might put them in the back like I'm doing here. Now, I don't have the umbrella palm in the back of this tank, but pothos, different kinds of pothos, and spider lily, I think is what the other one is called. I could be wrong. I digressed, and so my mind might not have adjusted, and I could have gotten that name wrong, but you recognize it, spider plant. This is the umbrella palm, and I believe I bought 2 teeny little pots, like the smallest size pot you can get, for I think 2 for $5. And they were tossed into a bag and put in my backpack. and just lugged home without really any effort. So I cleaned up all the roots, and I did that under a faucet of tap water until there was essentially just the rootstock. And I set them off to the side, and there was maybe four. I think there were four primary stems, if that's the right word, stalks. And I set them off to the side. And then in this vase, I used some old aqua soil mixed with gravel, mixed with sand. Just that usual bucket that over time you might store off in the garage that has used substrate. And I put a few inches into the bottom, and I layered it. I put a more thicker substrate at the very bottom to help facilitate water and things, nutrients, etc., roots being able to get down and into there and not get stuck in a stratified middle layer. But it sort of doesn't matter if you're using an easy plant like an umbrella plant and or an Amazon sword to get more aquatic. And I'm going to show you one of those too and how I did that, because they work marvelous. And I planted it, just poke a hole with your thumb down towards the bottom and stick those strands in there and then cover them back up. Easy peasy pumpkin squeezy. And so it's really cool. And while I was doing that, I also was gathering in a little cup like this, and you see Christmas moss in this cup, and that's just for storage. And I was gathering Hydrocolta Japan, or I call it Japanese clover, and you can see this plant here. Now, a lot of aquascapers love to use this to create a transition between bigger and smaller plants because it looks marvelous. It has that toxic green color, and toxic for you coral people is a good adjective. It means bright, almost fluorescent lime green, and Hydrocolta Japan can have that. Now, maybe it's not manifesting it really, really perfectly well, because I don't take care of it whatsoever. And from the gathering of various strands of the Hydrocolta Japan, I layered it in and around, just draped it around the plant that I had just stuck into the ground, the umbrella palm, and in a sense just pushed it with my fingers to form a semi-attractive mass that enveloped the free space that was left in the aquarium, of which, relatively speaking, was considerable. It was just those four strands of umbrella palm, the substrate, and nothing else. And I weaved it around, and then I set that creation onto a table, played with it a little bit till I got something I like. Now, honestly, there's not a lot to have to do. It's hardly aquascaping per se. This is like a $40 or $50, so that's expensive for a little nano light, but I had one. You could use almost anything. Better light means better results, but almost any sort of attachment or freestanding, any kind of nano light, or just a light bulb, even a lamp, if it fits, if you can make it fit from the geometry that the space that you're doing this in allows. I used a clip-on, but it could also be something that's anchored to the back or freestanding off the floor. The point is, don't obsess over which light and what the par is and all that stuff. Just work with what you have. I had this vase, I had this light, I found a couple $2 palms at a swap, and I had a bunch of extra plant material and substrate. So, a lovely little hour in my Sunday, I put this thing together, and I did that a number of Sundays ago. So this has been growing for a period of time. That's why it has a seasoned look to it. It doesn't look virgin at all. You can see how the plant is now just circling a tank around and around, somewhat getting into the substrate. Now this plant kind of works both ways. It's not an epiphyte, but it can be used like one. In other words, you could drape it around rock or wood in your aquarium, and as long as it has something to kind of stick to, it'll start to grow. And that's what's happening in here, and you can see the marvelous result. I love that. And so I don't have any kind of air mover, no air stone. You can, and if it were much bigger, I probably would consider using an air stone, just because then I could support better, more life forms, invertebrates. Primarily what we're talking about here is shrimps and snails, other than maybe putting a couple fry in here, maybe a least killifish. It's not really fish friendly, but don't let that stop you. If you're large and in charge, you can make it happen. Now you can see a few ram's horn snails, and I just throw those in there when I'm doing maintenance. Sometimes I'll put in a few cull shrimp just to see what happens. I've never seen a dead shrimp, but then again, they're not propagating either, so I don't know. But worst case scenario, the plants will use their carcass to help feed themselves. So a little circle of life, a little ecosystem. You gathered from my discussion that this was a very inexpensive, fun little project. And it's helping me deal with some of the electronics, which are an ugly reality in any fish room. It's helping me marry that stuff up in to the overall scheme of this fish room. And anyone can do it. It's super fun. Now I'm gonna I'm gonna swish the camera around and then walk into my dining room in real time here. And I wanna talk about the other installations that are just like that, but completely different. So this is an Amazon sword. This plant came from a cutting from my big monster tank. Excuse the shakiness, I'm walking around. Now you see all those browning big ass leaves up at the top. They are all emanating from the mother plant here, this sword that's right in the center. Now, one or two of these stems at any given time will start to form a rosette or a structure that looks like this. This is kind of a big one, this is a small one. And I just snip, and then I took that, and just like how I did the umbrella plant in the other vase aquarium, I did the same thing, but this time with an Amazon sword. Now, the part that I planted was already completely out of water, so I didn't have to worry about acclimating and submersed and I just planted the damn thing. Same way, same type of substrate. This is a slightly smaller vase, but look at how cool that is. Are you kidding me? That's so awesome. Some random duckweed found its way in here, as it does. And you can see the roots all white and super cool, and they're starting to circle and circle and circle. Now eventually, like anything in life, there will be a finish line. The plant will outgrow this, but it's been in here for a year. It's doubled in size, and it looks completely fine and healthy. Now this is a smaller one that I just started, and it's not as perfect as this one, but it's the same exact concept, and it's gonna be as perfect. You can see it's a lot newer. That's a brand new couple of handfuls of UNS aqua soil and some Petco gravel at top, maybe some lava rock at the bottom. Those three substrates will make a great overall potting mix for you. For the sword plant, I did stick in a root tab at least once over the course of its lifetime, and I'm sure that helps because these are voracious root feeders. It's by a window, which does not get direct sun except for in the morning when the sun comes up over Lake Michigan, but that doesn't last much past 11 a.m. before it's just ambient light. This plant could tolerate more, and probably could tolerate less. Very forgiving plant, same as the umbrella palm. Now you can see this one here, this is all new growth. So beautiful looking, and this is kind of the old, from where I cut the original rosette. It's upside down, of course. Whee! And you can see what I did here, right? I want you to be able to do that too. It's so rewarding and fun. And you know, your spouse could use this, or he, as a legitimate plant in your living spaces, right? It doesn't have to be a fish room only type of thing. I mean, we can argue whether this is as beautiful as a house plant in a ceramic vase. To me, it's even better. But it's here nor there, because it's why we're here talking about fish and plants. You know, I know you're all of the same mindset I am, and God help you if you are 100% here. So we talked about this little guy. He's gonna bounce back and do what it does here. Granted, the smaller space will prohibit it to some extent, but not a problem now, not a problem ever. Now get a load of this. I forget the ultra common name, but it's in the wandering dude family. It has a fun name, like purple sunshine, or so. Well, actually that's what we used to call LSD back in the day. I digressed, and I'm not on that now, or any substance for that matter. Just saying. So it has a fun name like that, and you could see it's doing a marvelous job of just working with water. These are just a couple cuttings that I put in a fun little vase that was sitting in almost the equivalent of a junk drawer. And I have taken these after they start rooting. Look at that, how beautiful. You could throw a snail or two in any of these, see what happens. But I have taken those cuttings once they establish a root. I don't edit, folks, so bear with me. I know all of you have bared with me. And I've planted it up in my immersed sections of a lot of my aquariums. I'm not seeing one here, but I know where one is. Down here, there's one that's in between, there it is. And a lot more shaded, a lot of competition in this particular territory. I do need to talk about that aquarium. I haven't in a minute. Look at how cool the pothos is winding its way. At Lush and Salty Aquariums, we love mixing and just leaning into plants, be they aquatic, semi-aquatic, or just a house plant. Because in nature, you know, if it rains like hell, suddenly a terrestrial plant's got to cope with being submerged. And so we can be flexible. For instance, this mangrove here is common. I think it's the red mangrove. I did the same thing. I made a impromptu substrate using, in this case, bigger pieces and lava rock in particular, just to let these big stalks steady themselves. And it takes a while. They're slow growers, at least in my fish room they are. Maybe in the wild they're not. These plants are super tolerant of different extremes. This one looks dead, but if you're patient, you'll start to see one little leaf right at the end there. And over time, that little tendril at the end will be like this one, and then leaves form. The mangrove plant, as I was trying to say before I babbled into another space, is a brackish to at times fully saltwater organism. Now I don't use any salt with these. I just plant them in freshwater because the literature says they are just as happy in that context. If I really wanted to get into the science, there's probably a good case to be made that some amount of salt would even help them further. I've got one over here too. Look at that fun little bottle. Now that bottle would sit in somebody's cabinet for eons, and it would be a wasted, beautiful thing. And here, it just helps drape or marry, I should say, some technology. There's the auto top off and all kinds of equipment. Just kind of softens the edges in my fish room, framing them with plants. And I like to do that in all the corners of my fish room. And I wanted to share that with you because these are little, easy, inexpensive, and fun ways you can embellish your aquarium keeping hobby, your house plant fetish, or anything in between. I love doing this. I love working with existing materials. It's very satisfying to know I had basically 100% of everything I needed to create these lovely little ecosystems. And for maintenance, the reason why I brought this little dollar store purchase is because all I do is spritz whenever I feel like it, no regimen there, and top off the water. Now, after a month or two, I will take the whole vase to my sink and use a simple tube and get all that old water out and start it afresh. And once in a while, I'll spritz in a fertilizer, like an all-in-one, like Aquarium Co-op's Easy Green or Thrive, any one of them. Or just like gnarly aquarium water. Sometimes I'll squeeze a sponge into each of these little containers. And I learn from it, and I have fun with it, and I push boundaries with it, and it excites me and thrills me and delights me. And if it does so for you, even a fraction of that, I think it's a win. So while I'm trimming the plants and I find something like this, most people would put it in the recycling bin. And in a way, I'm recycling it even better. I'm using it the way Mother Nature kind of sort of wanted it to, get me out of here and find me someplace where I can start to grow and thrive. Et voila! We've got our little mini ecosystems that are super fun, cool, fast, cheap, and easy. I love you all. Thanks for supporting the channel. Keep your hands in the tank, and in some cases, in a jar or a vase. And ciao for now.